Have you ever absolutely loved a training session, but then forgotten almost everything the next day? Well, you're not alone. 70% of people will forget training material within a week of learning it. But Mark Morgan figured out a very clever way to stay in people's heads for months afterwards. If you're in learning and development, coaching, or consulting, this might be the smartest use of AI podcasts you've seen yet.
Hi, everybody. Today we have Mark Morgan, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm over in the UK. My background is training and development. I've been in that field now, I guess, for about 28 years. And this is really what got me on my journey to where I am today, is that, way back, I always felt there was something missing from courses. You would teach people some fantastic stuff, and then, they get all excited during the day, and afterwards, reality would hit home. They'd go back to the workplace and they'd forget most of what they learned. And it was just, for me, a real shame that people were just missing out on something. And I felt as a coach, really, that I should be doing more. So my initial thoughts was to record MP3s and maybe just a 20-minute version of the day, just the key points, just so that the client could give it to their delegates as a reminder. But in those days, AI voices were pretty terrible. And the idea of actually recording myself and writing the scripts and all of that just wasn't going to happen. I just didn't have the time. And the reason for this is that, research really shows us that, when a person goes on a training course, after about 3 months, the retention of the information is around 30%. But actually, in reality, they're using far less than that. So it's always been my vision, or my goal, really, to try and help the clients that I work with to improve that, to get a better return on investment for the money that they're spending on training. Organizations spend fortunes. I've had companies spend upwards of 150, 170,000 pounds in a year of training with me. And I'd like to say, it was successful, but I'd like to say it really made a difference, but I honestly couldn't, and that's the thing, because a lot of what I'm relying upon is the client to keep the key messages alive. And of course, in their day-to-day lives, they're incredibly busy as well. So we know that often line managers don't always support their colleagues as they come back from these training courses, because they just have far too much on their plate. So that's really what got me interested in how I could develop something. And it was only really, I guess, about 10 weeks ago, something like that. I saw something on AI podcasting, but because of my if you like, my belief about AI voices, I really didn't take much attention to it. I thought, it's bound to be terrible. So I didn't listen to it. Then all of a sudden I came across Notebook LM. And actually, as soon as I saw that, I thought, wow, this is actually a lot better than I anticipated. Maybe there's something in this. Maybe I ought to be looking at this and see if there's something that I can use from this. But of course, Notebook, isn't probably the right tool. It's too conversational. It's a bit too flowery. It wasn't really what I was looking for. So I started doing some research online, just to look at what other options there were. And of course, I come across other podcasting companies, AI podcasting companies. So I signed up for them all, just to have a play, really. And with all of them, I must say I was pleasantly surprised. The quality of the voicings have gotten much better, because a lot of them got emotion in them now, which wasn't the case a few years back. It was all pretty monotone and flat, So an awful lot better. So I started producing just some podcasts, just to, play around, and I'm hooked. I think, once you start creating your own podcast, particularly when it's on a subject that you're really passionate about, because I'm really passionate about training. I really do want people to do the best that they can in their lives. A lot of my work, I'm an NLP master practitioner, an emotional intelligence coach. I've been, coaching personal development for many, many years, along with things like sales training, customer service, leadership, team builds. So I've done, quite a wide array of training, and I always want people to come out of that and really have value and really do things differently, and so when I started to create podcasts from the material that I started using from my work, I was really hooked, and I just thought this is exactly what I've been looking for. Really, it's exactly the right tool, because it's not only a refresher on what people have learned, but having that conversation, two-way conversation, in my view, sheds a slightly different light on the material. And that's always good when you hear things from a slightly different perspective. So it actually gets you thinking a bit more. So that's that was the beauty of podcasting. And then quite by chance, I come across Jellypod. Actually, I think it was a YouTube video. Somebody was comparing 11 Labs and YouTube and Jellypod, and they were like waxing lyrical about how good Jellypod was. So I thought, that's one I haven't tried. Let me get onto that. And so, I signed up for it, and I was immediately taken by the layout of everything. Everything is really laid out well. That is so logical. How you create it. There's no drama or where do I go next? It's really just even I've got a 9-year-old son, and he's created podcasts on Jellypod.
Awesome.
He's probably better than me in truth. I hate to say it, but that's how really simple it is. But don't take that simplicity for anything other than it is simple to use, because the quality, in my view, is fantastic. Because it wasn't just about creating a podcast that obviously have fantastic information, really good voicing. When I send it to someone, it's got to look great, and the unique URLs and the pages that you create, and now the videos, by the way, are amazing. I love those. When I send those out to clients, they're hugely impressed. And, I've won contracts on the back of that now. I've got a client that's just starting their podcast journey with me, and they're a global company. And, I think this is going to be, a huge account, and going to be very, personally profitable for me, which is great. But ultimately for them, it's going to help them for all the hundreds of thousands of pounds that they spent here in the UK, and the thousands of dollars everywhere else. They're going to get a return on their investment now, because they'll be able to give these little 10-minute podcasts of each of the courses, and people will be able to listen to them when they're on the go, and it will just, I hope, spark a bit of recognition. I remember doing that. Yeah, why aren't I using that? And just get them thinking again about potentially, getting back into it, particularly when it's like the personal stuff. Because I like to, whenever I do a sales course or a management course, I always bolt on stuff for like personal development, because I always think, you improve yourself first, then you can help to improve others. So whenever I do a leadership program, that's what I do. So what I always hope for is that, people that don't say, for example, set goals, will go out after my course, they'll be inspired enough maybe to go and do it, and I think this is what podcasting is really going to help me achieve. I think it's going to get me a much better hit rate with that, if you like, and people will go, I should be doing that, and I am going to commit to it.
It's so awesome. I think the way you think about learning at such a foundational level is awesome, because everyone sat through a class and had a light bulb go off and think, oh, wow, this is going to change the way that I'm doing something. I have to implement this. But, you can't learn how to ride a bike by listening about it.
Yeah.
Someone might tell you, like, okay, actually do this with the pedals. You're like, oh, that's a great idea. But you have to go out and practice.
You do.
And the issue is that you can't follow around this person, and remind them and stay accountable. But this enables you to stay in their ear, plugged in, and that way, just give it a weekly listen, maybe on a Monday morning, and try to, implement it on your way in. So I think that's so cool to see you sort of deconstruct how people are learning today in a corporate environment, and how can we help that go further
Yeah.
with the tools that are at our disposal. I have a script, a few questions I'd like to ask, but those
Yeah,
all went out the
go
window
for it.
because but you were flowing great, and I was like, I don't know, I can't, I don't know where to even go. So how exactly did Jellypod help you accomplish like this major project of making content, in this training context?
Right. Like I said, I'd used other platforms and always found that, you had to go here and then over here and then, merge stuff. And I didn't like the look of some of the other platforms, to be honest. What I really liked about Jellypod was that, you can get in, you can either create great voices or, you've got a great library of, really good voices as well. And it's just so easy. The scripts I find as well, when it generates the scripts, I find that those are probably the best that I've come across for what I need, because they're not with another platform. I'll give you an example, because what I did initially was I put the same material into all the different platforms, and I wanted to see what was generated in terms of scripts. And one was just making up numbers, and I was thinking, where the hell are they getting these numbers from? I'd have to go and research this to see if they're true, because I can't send this to a client, if it's not true. And so that was, and then Notebook was just all over the place. It was just lots of ums and ahs and like, oh yeah, I like that. It was just too conversational. But what I liked about Jellypod was that it was really on point in terms of, helping me get what I needed from a training perspective over to the clients. It really focused on the core messages really, really well. So I think the language model that you use is really, really good. It's probably the best, I think, from what I've come across. And, I did very little editing on these, a few bits here and there, but by and large, I would say probably 98% of it was just as it was generated. I also like the fact that the way that it does the episode plans as well. That's really, really cool. The episode plans are really great to work with. Again, you can always add bits to those, so they're easy to kind of modify as well. But what I did was, once I created like the demo, if you like, for my first client, I sent it off to them and they were blown away by it. So I really had very little work to do after that, other than, let's set up a meeting and get a proposal together. And that's exactly what happened. So it really, what set it apart, I guess, for me was really the script generation. That was just fantastic. Loved that.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear. I mean, we're such, but like we give so much attention to all the various building blocks throughout the flow. So and everyone has a different favorite, which is so cool. But it's nice to hear that the script is awesome for you. In that overall flow, I mean, you've said so many, but were there any unexpected benefits that you didn't expect going into it, and then all of a sudden kind of wowed you?
Yeah, like I said, the unique URLs, when you send that out to a client, I mean, it just looks fantastic. It looks really professional. You're not just sending them like an MP3 file. Do you know what I mean? So, it adds a bit of weight and value to what you're doing. And now obviously you've got the video that when you render down, that's just incredible. And I think the other thing, while I think about this, is just the way you guys have kind of, I mean, ever since I've been on the platform, which is probably about 8 weeks or so, there's been so many additions to the platform, so many add-ons. So just the way that you guys are thinking about what you do is just, for me, really great, very agile. And that's what I'm looking for, for someone that I want to work with, is a company that's going to be as agile as I want to be, because I want to do lots of stuff, and I don't want to be behind a big organization that says, oh, it's going to take 6 months to do this, and you just get frustrated by that. So you guys, I just love the innovation of what you're doing and the little additions that you add to the platform, because they're always really good.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, we're working hard. Day and night. We're trying to span 3 continents with our 3 time zones. So we appreciate it so much. The question to you would be, This is a wild question to follow up with. If Jellypod suddenly disappeared tomorrow, what would you miss most about it?
Oh, everything. I really would. Honestly, the thought of having to go to another platform would be horrible. So don't disappear, please. No, don't. Please don't do that, because
I won't. No, we won't.
My clients love what I've sent them. The whole basis of this contract that I'm embarking on is based around working on the Jellypod platform. So it's really important that I maintain that quality, which I know I can with you guys. So yeah, don't disappear, please.
No, we will not. We will not. It's just a thought experiment.
I know.
And a great, a way that I would like to finish these calls is, if you could describe Jellypod to a friend in a single sentence, what would that sentence be?
What would I say? I mean, I'm a big fan. I would just say, it by far the best AI podcasting platform out there by a mile. And absolutely, if you're serious about doing AI podcasts, this is the platform to be on.